So let's continue from the last lecture. So we discussed about the three equations of motions. Now in this lecture we'll start with the derivation of these three equations. So these three equations are valid when the acceleration is constant. Keep this thing in mind. So we'll start with the first equation. So let's start with the derivation. So the first thing that you need to start with is the formula for acceleration. So we know that acceleration is the rate of change of velocity. So it can be dv by dt. Again, just keep in mind dv by dt means differentiation of velocity with respect to time, or small change in velocity with small change in time. Now from here we can write dv to be equal to a dt. Okay. Now the next thing is to integrate these two sides. It might be a bit confusing for you at present because you have not used integration at all, or you might be in the initial stages of using integration, but let me try to explain. So this is the small change in v, this is the small change in t. Now we will try to add the small changes, and that thing is called integration. When we add small things to make a bigger thing, it is called integration. So I have used the sign of integration both the sides. Now let's say the initial velocity was u, so I will write u here, and the final velocity will become v, so I will write v here. So this bottom thing tells us about the initial condition. Okay, this is the initial condition, and this tells us about the final condition, final situation. So this is the final velocity. Similarly, let's say that the acceleration the time went from 0 to t, that is we started at 0 second and we went up to t seconds. Okay, so this is the final thing and this is the initial thing. So just keep the notation in mind. Do not worry much, this notation will become clear to you once you do a few examples. Now after the integration symbol we need to integrate it. How to integrate? So if you remember, we discussed about one formula, that is, let's say if x to the power n dx is there, then it is x n plus 1 upon n plus 1. Similarly, we will do the same thing here, we will use the same formula here. What is v to the power here? V to the power 0 is here, okay, because nothing is here. Here is 1, okay, I can write 1, and instead of 1 I can write v to the power 0. Why v? Because I want dv, okay, so I am integrating with respect to v, therefore I am writing it like v to the power 0. And similarly here a is constant, so it will come out. Remember we are doing it for the case of constant acceleration, so the value of a is constant, so constant comes out every time in integration and differentiation. Now again t to the power 0 dt, same as v to the power 0. Why t? Because here we are integrating with respect to time. After this the integration is quite simple, v to the power 0 plus 1 upon 0 plus 1. And one important thing, we have two limits here, that is we are going from u to v, so we will write it like this. And similarly here a is the constant which will come out, and t will be 0 plus 1 upon 0 plus 1, because here the value of n was 0, okay. In this situation value of n is 0. So what we will get? We will get v here, okay, u to v, and we will get t here 0 to t. So now what to do with the limits? So we put the limits like this, upper limit minus lower limit, that is at the place of v just put the values, okay. So upper limit minus lower limit equal to a. Similarly upper limit minus lower limit, so just put the value of t to be t in the upper limit and 0 in the lower limit. So what we get? V minus u equal to at, or v equal to u plus at. So this is our first equation of motion under constant acceleration. Now let's try to derive the second equation. First equation. Now for second equation. For second equation, let's start with the formula that we have derived. Okay, v equal to u plus at. V equal to u plus at. Now I can write this formula in a different manner too. I can write it like this: dx by dt equal to u plus at. Why? Because I know velocity is the rate of change of displacement. Okay, rate of change of displacement. X is the displacement. So v can be dx by dt. Now again I will put dt on the right side like this, and now I can write it like this: u dt plus at dt. Now again the same thing I will integrate. So when I integrate it, it will look like this. Okay, integrating all the terms. So again let's say I am the displacement is from 0 to x, the position changes from 0 to x, time changes from 0 to t. So what I'll get: x to the power 0 dx, 0 to x equal to 0 to t. U is constant, it will come out. So t to the power 0 dt plus a is constant, comes out t dt, t to the power 1 dt, because t is here. Okay, its power is 1. So what will I get? I will get x 0 plus 1 upon 0 plus 1, same formula, 0 to x equal to u, here again 0 plus 1 upon 0 plus 1 and 0 to t, and plus acceleration is constant. Now what will happen here? T 1 plus 1, because n is 1 here, upon 1 plus 1 from 0 to t. So I will get x 0 to x equal to u t 0 to t plus a t square by 2 0 to t. Now again upper limit minus lower limit, upper limit minus lower limit, plus again upper limit minus lower limit, putting 0 at the place of t and t at the place of t. So I get x equal to ut plus half at square. So this gives me the second equation of motion. Now let's start with the third equation of motion. So for the third equation of motion, what can I do? So I can do one thing. I'll again use the first equation of motion, that is v equal to u plus at. Now I'll square both the sides. So I will get something like this. I've used the formula a plus b whole square equal to a square plus 2ab plus b square. Okay, so now what I get is v square equal to u square plus, let's take 2a common, ut plus half at square. Now what is ut plus half at square? It is x from the equation 2. From equation 2, x is equal to ut plus half at square. So ultimately we get v square equal to u square plus 2ax. So this is our third equation of motion. So this is how we get the three equations of motion when the acceleration is considered to be a constant. Okay, remember acceleration is a constant. Third equation, second equation and first equation. Till now we have only discussed about the motion in one dimension. Okay, let's say we were only focusing on x axis, okay, or either y axis or either z axis. But obviously not all the motions happen in one dimension. There can be multiple dimensions. Motion can be happening in a plane or it can be happening in a volume, okay. So motion can happen in three ways usually: motion in a straight line, or motion in a plane, or motion in a certain volume, okay, a certain region, okay, 3D region. So now we've discussed about motion in a straight line, okay, when only one of the dimension is changing. Now we will discuss about planar motion, and what about the volume, okay, volume or motion in 3D. So it is quite simple, okay. For example, in 2D, what did we do? The equation of velocity was dx by dt, and let's say the direction was I cap, okay. Velocity is a vector quantity, so we'll use a direction. For direction I am using I cap. Remember, I was the direction for x axis, so let's say the object is moving in x axis, so this is the magnitude and this is the direction. Now what happens in a plane? So let's say one object is moving in a plane, y and x plane, okay, xy plane. Object is moving in an xy plane, let's say. So we can write the velocity like this: dx by dt I cap plus dy by dt j cap. So what you understood? You understood that the components, x component and y components, they are independent of each other. So the best thing about studying motion is that the x and y components are independent of each other. So we do not need to worry much. Whatever we did in one dimension or in a straight line, we can do in a planar motion just by keeping more x's, y's and z's, okay. So it is quite simple. So remember, this one is the x component of velocity and this one is the y component of velocity. Similarly for acceleration, acceleration was, let's say, dvx by dt, let's say in I cap direction. So similarly here we will have acceleration in two dimensions, dvx by dt I cap plus dv v by dt j cap. So we can write it like this also, quite simple. And again, this is the x component of acceleration and this is the y component of acceleration. And similarly we can write the equations of motion. Here it could be written like this: uxt plus half ax t square and v square x equal to ux square plus 2ax x. So this x represents that the motion is in x direction. Similarly, this same thing can be, the same equations can be used here, okay. It's just that we will use one set of equations for x axis and one set of equations for the y axis, okay. So let me just remove all the x's and write y at the place, okay. So this set of equation for x axis, this set of equation for the y axis. Now what will happen in 3D? So hopefully I do not need to tell you, same thing will happen here. It's just that we will write three equations, x, y and z. So for example, velocity can be dx by dt I cap plus dy by dt j cap, and for z axis we use k, okay. So dz by dt k cap, and similarly acceleration will be there, dvx by dt I cap, dvy by dt j cap, dvz by dt k cap, okay. So quite simple, and we will have three sets of equation, just one for each one, x, y and z. So I will not again write all the equations, let me just write the values for z1, okay. And similarly you can write for x and y just like you wrote in the planar equations. So z z z z z z, here z. Okay, so for the z axis, this is for the z axis. So the equation of motion can be written in all the dimensions individually. So just do not worry much about the motion in a plane or in a straight line or in a 3-dimension, because you just treat all the dimensions individually. Do not worry and do not think much what to do about 3-dimension or 2-dimension. Just do what you did in 1 dimension but individually for x, y and z. That's it. So as we have discussed about motion in a plane, okay, in 2 dimension, so we can now discuss one important type of motion, that is called the projectile motion. Okay, so projectile motion is a 2-dimensional motion. So let me draw one situation. So let's say this is your x axis, this is your y axis. Okay, now let's say you shot one object from here, and what will happen? Under the influence of gravity, this object will follow certain path, and that path will look something like this. Okay, and this parabolic trajectory, this is a parabolic trajectory, is called a projectile motion. This parabolic trajectory is called the projectile motion. Okay, this can also happen like this. You are standing at a certain building, okay, and you threw a ball from this point. So what will happen? The object or the ball will move like this. Again same, this is a parabola and this is called the projectile motion. Projectile motion. So it is one of the most important topics that you will study, projectile motion. So this first one is called the oblique projectile motion, and the second one is called the horizontal projectile motion, because in this case we are throwing the ball like this, in this case we are throwing the ball like this. So let's take the oblique projectile motion and we'll try to derive few equations for this projectile motion. For example, time of flight, range of the projectile, etc. Okay, so first let me describe the graph. So the object was projected from here, it moved like this. The initial velocity was in this direction, u. The angle is theta. This is the x axis, this is the y axis. This is the top point. Point A is the topmost point at which the velocity is like this. At any other point, the velocity is like the tangent at that particular location. This is the origin. So let's first describe about velocity. So velocity is like this. So we know that we can have two components of velocity. One will be the x component, one will be the y component. The x component will be equal to u cos theta and the y component will be equal to u sin theta. Hopefully you remember this. How? Because this will make a, let's say this is ux and this is uy. So this is a right angle triangle. So sin theta is equal to perpendicular uy upon hypotenuse, that is u, and you will get uy equal to u sin theta. So this side is u sin theta, okay, u sin theta. Similarly by cos theta you will get ux by u. So you will get ux equal to u cos theta. So just remember this much. Now we will describe the horizontal motion separately and the vertical motion separately. Horizontal motion and the vertical motion. So for horizontal motion, what do we have? We have here the acceleration is 0. Okay, there is no acceleration in x-axis. The only acceleration is in y-axis because of gravity. Okay, acceleration due to gravity. So acceleration is in x-axis is 0, horizontal is x-axis and vertical is y-axis. Secondly, the initial velocity in x-axis is u cos theta, as we found out. And what else? So let's write the equation. So what will be the equations of motion that we will get? We will get Vx equal to ux plus axt, which will reduce to u cos theta, because this is 0 and this is u cos theta. Now second equation, x equal to uxt plus half axt square, this will reduce to u t cos theta, u cos theta, ux is u cos theta into t. Okay, ut cos theta. Similarly, for vertical motion, the acceleration is minus g, because the sign, this downward is taken as negative and upward is taken as positive. So acceleration is downward always. Okay, acceleration due to gravity, therefore we are taking it negative. So vy equal to uy minus gt, and obviously you can write it like u cos theta minus gt, and y equal to uyt minus half gt square. So here you can write y equal to ut cos theta. Oh, just a second, it is u sin theta. In vertical direction it is sin theta. So ut sin theta minus half gt square. So these are the equation that you get for horizontal and vertical directions individually. Now we will try to find some more formulas. The formulas include the time of flight. Okay, the first is the time of flight. So this tells us about the amount of time the object is in air. Okay, so this will be the time of flight. Now you can find the time of flight using the equation y equal to ut sin theta minus half gt square. Okay, now here we can do one more thing. We can do one thing here. Now at point P, what will happen at point B? Now what will happen at point B? At point B, y will be equal to 0, because you are at the bottommost location. So the y is 0 here. Okay, so 0 equal to ut sin theta minus half gt square, which you will get u sin theta minus half gt equal to 0. So ultimately gets two values, t equal to 0 and t equal to 2u sin theta by g. So obviously t is not 0, there is some time that has elapsed. So our formula for time period of or time of flight is t equal to 2u sin theta by g. So this is our formula for time of flight. Okay, why did we use point B? Because point B was the last point. Okay, and at point B y was 0, and using that we got the value of time of flight, that it is this amount of time we were in air. Now second formula is for range. Range is the horizontal distance. Okay, this horizontal distance is called the range. This will be called the height or the topmost height. So what will be the range? So to find the range we want x-axis because we are discussing about horizontal motion. So we know that time for complete motion, time of flight is 2u sin theta by g, and we know that x is equal to u cos theta g, horizontal motion. So we can put the value of t, u cos theta and 2u sin theta by g. So ultimately x will be equal to 2u square sin theta cos theta by g. So x will be equal to u square 2 sin theta cos theta by g. Now there is this one formula which we will use, it will become sin 2 theta. So 2 sin theta cos theta, there is a formula for this, it is equal to sin 2 theta. So ultimately this is our range, this is the maximum horizontal distance. So the range is equal to u square sin 2 theta by g. So this formula is for the range. Now similarly we can find the formula for the height or the topmost point. Maximum height, okay. So for maximum height, again let's take vertical axis because we are discussing about vertical height. It will be u sin theta minus gt as we know. Ultimately again for maximum height, what will happen? For maximum height the velocity will become 0, okay. At the maximum height, at this point the vertical velocity will become 0, okay. The object will not move in vertical direction because when the object moves up its velocity slows and it stops. So for that moment velocity is 0, vertical velocity. So we, at the topmost point Vy is 0. So we get again u sin theta equal to gt or t equal to u sin theta by g. Now for maximum height we can write y equal to uyt minus half gt square, and time period is equal to u sin theta by g minus half g u sin theta by g whole square. So it is equal to u square sin square theta by g minus u square sin square by 2g. So after subtracting you will get sin square u square sin square theta by 2g. So you can write it to be the maximum height. So this is how you get the formulas for maximum height, maximum range and the time of flight of a projectile. Hopefully all these are clear, just a bit of geometry involved. So with this we have completed all the main topics in chapter 3. There is this one topic which is the change in frame. So this topic I think is not appropriate to be discussed right now. We will come to this topic after the laws of motion. You will understand this topic better. So this ends the chapter 3. In the next lecture we will start chapter 4, in which we will study about the cause of motion, that is dynamics, that is the force.